Well, hello everybody. I'm here talking to you about storytelling. Let me take my glasses off. I'm talking about storytelling, but I want to talk a little bit about storytelling as a radical gift of hope. I know we talked about storytelling as a social force for change, but it's also something that I believe is something that we can explore through the avenues of hope and connection. But before I start, I would like to, and I know it's part of the Australian traditions, I wish it was traditions all over the world to do this, but to honour the Indigenous peoples of Australia, the Kulin Nation, and also the fact that I am also presenting this digitally from the land of the Cherokee. And we don't do very well in this country is honor the Indigenous peoples, but we should. And I tell you why in the context of storytelling. It's because it's the Indigenous peoples for thousands of years that have kept the sacred art of storytelling alive. And it's kind of why we exist in the center, and our mission here at the International Storytelling Center, to promote storytelling, to look to the past, to shape the future, but also pay respect to the people that have kept the traditions, the tradition bearers of storytelling alive. So my name is Kiran Singh Sirar, and I'm the president of this organization called the International Storytelling Center, based in Jonesboro, Tennessee, here in the southern United States. And in my work, I am inundated with stories all day, every day, and I do love it. I believe in the power of stories to bring understanding, tolerance, and peace to the world. I also oversee the National Storytelling Festival, which is considered the world's largest and finest event of its kind. Around 10,000 people that come here. The festival itself, that began in 1973, helped transform the art of storytelling from a grassroots movement into a thriving industry. And it also became one of the events that gave birth to our organization, but inspired many events across this country as part of the folk revival movement, and the concept of the professional storyteller, which is all over the world. And we know that Australia also has an storytelling events across its country. So from the early days, ISC was designed to be a first-class institution and an educational institution. And 47 years later, we've taken the rich traditions of everyday stories and helped to build this creative industry that has touched the lives of millions of people. And it's something that my predecessor likes to call a storytelling revolution. It kind of has a ring to it, doesn't it? The storytelling revolution. Well, around the same time as this movement began here in the Appalachian Mountains, something different was happening to my family, a different kind of revolution in a different part of the world. And it was 4 years before I was born, in 1972, when my family were forced to flee at gunpoint their homeland in Uganda, in East Africa. And that meant around 50,000 people had to flee the borders when Idi Amin made the announcement that all Ugandans had 3 months, Ugandan Asians had 3 months to leave the country or they would be executed. Now, they couldn't take their objects of faith with them, or their houses or their personal possessions, but what they could take was their beliefs and their traditions, and they could embed them in the stories that they passed on to me and others like me that were born or maybe brought to as babies into a new space, and these stories that were passed on to me became my courage. They helped me to find my sense of courage, my sense of determination, my perseverance. They helped me also create a sense of an identity and a sense of belonging, a relationship with a place that I had never been at that point. And I began to see that there was a world beyond the divisions and labels to which society imposes upon us. And when you help to see yourself beyond borders, you can truly become a citizen of the world. Now, I want to fast forward many years, because when I left my job in Scotland, which I moved from South England to Scotland, I spent many years, I became a Rotary Peace Fellow at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, where actually I met my friend who is from the city of Melton, Jessica Trisberg, and who you probably all know. But I left my job in Scotland to become the Rotary Peace Fellow, but I gave away all my possessions and I put what I could into 2 small suitcases. And I thought back to my parents' arrival all those years ago when they couldn't take their possessions with them. But they could take their memories and their traditions, and they kept them alive through the stories that they passed on to me, and here I was doing the same. So When I finished my studies, I was offered this job as the president of the International Storytelling Center, and I've had a chance to help lay the first stages of the next phase of this institution, but also to help advance a storytelling movement as a global force for peace. And as part of this, we are building strategic partnerships and alliances with all different kinds of organizations, from federal agencies to the Silicon Valley engineers. But we also get to work with the US State Department, the White House, not right now, but we did in the last administration. You know my political bias on that one. Google, Smithsonian Institution, the United Nations, both in Geneva and New York, and would you believe even the Pentagon. It's been an interesting time to live and work in the United States as a non-US citizen, I can tell you that. But it also makes sense because storytelling, I believe, is a truly democratic art. It gives power to the people and promotes a greater sense of global citizenship by transforming people into agents for social change. As a son of refugees and as a minority who has experienced marginalization, I've worked hard to break through the silence and other barriers. And once you understand that your own story matters, it's not hard to to understand, or not a great leap to understand, that other people's stories matter as well. Now, as we move forward right now into this era of conflict that seems to have no end, I believe we need to tap into the stories of peace that are just as powerful as stories of war. I want us to work together to think about this movement as each story creating a ripple effect to help shift the narrative. If we can override the narrative of war, of conflict, of climate change denial, to stories of peace, understanding, the challenge and struggles that we have as a humanity that we need to overcome. And if we can be binded by that fact, the common goal to make our world a better place, safer. And in the indigenous traditions, the Iroquois people, the 7 generations principle, the actions that you do today, you sow the seeds for 7 generations that come after you. I don't think that's just from the indigenous wisdom of this nation. I think it's from the indigenous peoples around the world. When you plant the seed, you create the topsoil for 7 generations that come after you. Even if you don't experience it in your lifetime, but your people will, the world will. We're connected to those that come after us. It's the same with the stories that we create. The stories that we tell today, we can shift the narrative for the future. There are billions of people on this planet, and that means there are billions of ways to radically shift the narrative towards peace. And storytelling is a simple act. It doesn't require any props, doesn't require any tools. Right now I'm using a video, but if I was with you in person, each and every one of you, I can guarantee at some point have told stories in the last couple of days, this morning, and you will for the rest of this time, your time together. It's how we connect. We don't talk in facts. We share stories, we build connection. So I invite you to join in this important work with something that you're probably already doing, but help think about it in a way that we can embed storytelling in your work, in your programs. And if you would like support from me, then you can just reach out to me. Storytelling moves faster than the speed of light. And if you imagine how powerful it is, where it can, in 24 hours, it can affect a stock exchange. Just imagine if we can replace the stock exchange with a global peace indicator. Every day when we tell a story, we get to work collectively on the planet towards building peace, understanding, connection, and also this beauty. Through story, we get to celebrate our humanity and one another and learn to smile with one another. So I thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the rest of our discussions. Namaste.